guys! Today is my September wrap-up. I'm going to talk about the books that I read in September. Spoiler alert, there were 12. Because I have a problem. Yes, I did in fact read 12 books in the month of September, and none of them were bad, to be honest. Like, none of them were bad. I had a few that were just kind of meh. They were good, but not great. And then I had a lot that were great. To be fair, a lot of these were, continuations of series that I had already started and loved. I did read an entire trilogy that I loved. So, I don't know. Not too shocking that there's a lot of 5-star reviews here. So let's go ahead and just hop into it. Okay. First things first, let's go through the 3 stars. The first one I did listen to on audio, so I'll go ahead and insert a photo of the cover here, and that was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, and this was a good book, okay? Please don't come for me. This was a good book, and the message was fantastic, and yes, I know that I am not person to find this relatable, I guess. And we all know why, if you know what the book's about. But basically, it is about a 16-year-old African-American girl who is in the car when her best friend is shot by a police officer and her experience. Now, what I loved about this book was the message. The message was absolutely beautiful. I felt like the issues that it brought up and everything like that were things that pretty much anyone in the United States right now can relate to. And the big part of the message was to use your voice, and that your voice is your weapon to fight back. I loved that. The only reason I gave it 3 stars is because I didn't love the way it was written. I did love getting, even though it was written in single POV, we got a lot of, like, the other characters' perspectives still. So you could really, feel her parents' perspective, her other friends' perspectives, and things like that in the book, even though you were only focused on the one point of view. And I loved that. The only part that I didn't love is that I felt like the beginning and the end were very solid, and a lot of the in-between fell flat. We did get a lot of, what she was going through in between, but I almost wanted more, and I struggled to power through in that middle section. There was, a part, I don't think this is going to be a spoiler, but skip ahead just a little bit if you don't want to risk it. There was a part where she goes in front of the grand jury in regards to this, and then it just skipped to a few weeks later, and I wanted more. So that's it. I docked it because of the way it was written. That's it. The story itself was really solid. The message, I loved the message, and I loved the way she made you feel the perspective of the other people, but I didn't care for the writing style, I guess. And I felt like there were pieces missing that I wanted. Anyway, moving on. Next was the Dressmakers Gift by Fiona Valpy. And this I read on my Kindle, so again, I'll go ahead and insert a photo of the cover here. This was a Kindle first read. It's historical fiction, and it is about the main piece of it. The piece that I loved was about these 3 seamstresses living in France during World War II after the Nazis have taken over Paris, or occupied Paris, I guess is the best way to put it. It does flip back and forth between, World War II Paris and modern day Paris, with the granddaughter of one of the women now living in Paris, trying to, figure out her family history, basically. And the reason it was a 3-star book, it was almost a 4-star book, but the reason I docked it was because I didn't care at all about the modern plotline at all. fact, if that would have been completely removed and we had just talked about the World War II era characters, I would have been so much happier. But I felt like I was wasting my time with the modern stuff. I didn't feel for her. Didn't really, like, I don't know. It didn't pull at me like the historical piece did. So that's why it was only okay. But the historical fiction part of it was really good. I just didn't want the rest of it. Okay, so I read 3 4-star books, and I am going to just in like succession here, or all at once. I'm not entirely sure what editing me will feel like doing, but I'm going to put all of them up here and talk about them all at once because they are a series that I've been working on, and that is the Harbinger series by Jeff Wheeler. I read them all on my Kindle, and I'm really enjoying them. I'm really, really enjoying this series. So first we have Stormglass, which is the first book in the series. It is set in this world where basically the impoverished live like normal on the ground houses and tenements and stuff. And then the upper class or the elite live in these sky manors that are like floating in the air, which I thought was such a cool concept. And so Stormglass starts off with our 2 main characters, which are Seti. We go back and forth between these 2 points of view, between Seti, who is this super impoverished girl, and she gets basically rescued by one of the upper class and gets to go live in one of the sky manors. And then Sarah, who is actually the granddaughter of the emperor, so she's a princess, right? And getting to see, now I will say I wasn't entirely sure how I felt at first, because we're starting off, these girls are 12, you know, and granted, there are books where I'm totally down for that. Like, I mean, Harry Potter, we start off, he was like 11, right? So I was a little nervous about whether I was going to even feel for these characters or anything, but I hopped right in and totally got into it. The magic system is still a little bit of a mystery. Weirdly enough, they call their magic the mysteries, but I'm 3 books in and there's still more to figure out, you know? But the first one was a really solid start, and then the second one, which is Mirror Gate, we jump ahead, was it 4 years? I think it was 4 years, and they are now like finishing up their schooling, so they're, yes, 4 years, because they're 16, and they're getting ready to finish up their schooling. They both end up getting to go to school early, for whatever reason. I mean, I know the reason, but I'm not going to spoil that. And so the second book, we start off 4 years later, and they're finishing up their schooling and doing like their testing and stuff like that. And I can't really go into much more detail without spoiling stuff, but we learn more about Seti, and we go through a whole bunch of political drama with Sarah. And then in book 3, which is Iron Garland, it picks up 3 years after book 4. So they're 19, and we get a whole new world introduced called King Fountain, and from my understanding, that is like a tie-in to another series, which I of course have now put on my want to read list because I want to know more about King Fountain. But overall, the whole series so far is a solid 4 stars. I have really been enjoying it. I've been flying through the books. In fact, the only reason I haven't picked up book 4 yet is because it's now October and I really want to read spooky stuff, and they're not super spooky. So, but yeah, I'm really enjoying them. They're not the best things I've ever read. They're not 5 stars, but they're definite solid 4s. So I was pretty happy with those. Okay, on to the actual physical books that I read, which, weirdly enough, I'm just now getting to. I read Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan. It was a reread for me. I am working my way through the Wheel of Time series as a reread. I've read these several times before, but I'm basically getting myself ready for the TV show next year. Even though I know they're not going to get this far in the first season or anything like that. I just wanted to read them all before the TV show came out. So this was book 7. I can't really tell you much about it without spoiling a whole bunch, but I mean, stuff is still good. We still have things to come that are like some of my favorite parts of this series. I love this series. I talk about it all the time. In fact, I have the first 2 books out on loan right now because I finally convinced one of my good friends that they had to read it. Even though I will say she's taking her sweet time getting through them, and I'm like super anxious. But anyway, I do love these. I have book 8 actually sitting over here on my nightstand. I have started it, but I went ahead and put it down again for October. I'm going to go ahead and take a break from it so that I can read my spooky stuff. But yes, love this book. Always going to be a 5-star book for me, I think. I've read them multiple times. They're still 5 stars. Love them. I really do think this is one of the best fantasy series of all time. Oh my gosh, I almost totally forgot I even read this month because it was so early in the month. But, so I read The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I borrowed it from the library, so I don't have a physical copy to show you, but I'll go ahead and insert it here. Oh my gosh. So I know I was like really behind on the whole reading of this novel, mostly because I kept getting told that I was going to cry, and I swear I cried for 100 pages. I counted. Like, I went back and looked where I started crying, and it was 100 pages of bawling my eyes out. It was something. It was beautiful, and it was heartbreaking, and I don't even think, I mean, it's about a girl who has terminal cancer, and she falls in love with a boy. That's all I have. It's beautiful. It's heartbreaking. The romance is sweet. Like, I can't help myself. It gave me all the feels, and anything that invokes that much emotion out of me gets added to my favorites list for sure. Okay, another one I read on my Kindle was Everything You Are by Kerry King, and this one caught me off guard, actually. When I first picked it up as a Kindle first read, my expectations weren't very high. In fact, I read The Dressmaker's Gift before this one because I thought that I was going to like that one more, but that was not the case. This book, again, it hit me like in all of my emotions. It was about a musician, a cellist who had injured his hands and was no longer able to play the cello. Years go by, and he's basically an alcoholic mess, and his ex-wife and son are in a tragic car accident and they die, leaving his daughter alone. So he gets himself cleaned up, kind of, or tries to, so that he can be there for his daughter. And we go back and forth between his point of view and this woman who's basically, she is the granddaughter of the man who sold him his first cello, original cello, and the cello his daughter now has. So we get her point of view, we get the cellist's point of view, we get the daughter's point of view, and just everything they're going through and dealing with the trauma and the PTSD and all of this and how they come out of it in the end is so masterfully done. And Kerry King just did such a good job. Oh my gosh. I highly recommend it, especially if you like contemporary fiction. She did a great job. I was really caught off guard. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but holy smokes, it was fantastic. So I talked about 3 Dark Crowns. What was that, last month? and I loved it. And it caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting to love it. I feel like that happens to me a lot. I'd heard some mixed feelings. Like, I've heard people say how much they love it, and some people be like, wasn't really my thing, whatever. I read One Darkthrone, which is book 2 in the series, knowing pretty much that this was going to be a 5-star read for me because, again, I read the first one. That was a 5-star book for me. I love this series. I love the dynamic between the sisters in this series. I love that, now this might be just me getting a little too deep, but I love the nature versus nurture, like, psychology that these sisters have to, like, deal with. They've been raised one way, and fighting against that, like, nurture in order to really, like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without spoiling anything. So fighting against the nature, or fighting against the nurture in order to embrace the nature. That might not make any sense to anyone who hasn't read these, but that's okay. I still love this story. I have 2 dark rains sitting over here ready for me. It is pretty dark as far as YA fantasy goes, because it's about these 3 sisters who are trying to kill each other. I mean, it's hard to get much darker than that. I mean, it's not hard to get much darker than that. Game of Thrones happened, okay? And I know there are darker fantasies out there, but this is YA, so for YA, I mean, it's dark. So I don't know if it really counts towards being dark enough for October, but you know what, if I get through my October TBR, I'll definitely be, like, picking that up. And it's from the library, so I might just pick it up anyways. I don't know. Anyway, that's not the point. This is fantastic. 5 stars. Still loving this series. Can't wait to pick up the 3rd one. It's sitting right there. Not surprised that this was 5 stars. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about all 3 of these at once because this was a trilogy that I could not help myself. Once I got through book 1, I had to keep going. And that was the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I have all of them right here. So I read all 3. I read Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising, all in the month of September, and holy mother of God, these were fantastic. This was another series that I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to feel about it, just because I had heard so many people say that while they loved, like, 6 of Crows and Leigh Bardugo's, like, later novels, that this was just kind of okay. So I went into this mostly just reading it because I wanted to read 6 of Crows, but I wanted to... So I know you can read 6 of Crows without reading this, I get that, but I wanted to catch any of the, like, slight little references back to these that might be in there. And then I also heard that King of Scars, while you can read it without reading the other novels, you still miss a little piece because there are some, like, slight references, which I get because Nikolai, who is supposed to be the main character in King of Scars, right? Is in this series as well. And P.S. I love him. Holy crap. I love Nikolai so much. I love Nikolai so much that I can't wait to read King of Scars. Cannot freaking wait. Anyway, these were fantastic, and I loved all of them. In fact, I actually, like, I had a moment where, I think it was in Siege and Storm, where I was, like, so annoyed by the romance line that was going on, and I hated the couple together, and just was not, I just wanted it to go a different direction. I wanted her to be with somebody else. Whatever. And then I changed my mind. How can I describe these without getting spoilers or telling you how I feel about them? I don't know. Basically, this series is about a girl who has been very like plain her whole life and unextraordinary, and then we find out that she's actually got this power that nobody else has, and she basically has to go kind of save her world with said power, and it's about how she gets to that point. There's romance in here. There is love triangles. Yeah, more than one in this series. One of which was painful, and one of which I wanted to go a different direction, except for at the end I was like, oh no, that worked out. Anyway, these are fantastic. Loved them. And that was my September. So yeah, it was really good. I really, really like it when I don't have any 1 or 2 star books. That was exciting. Because just for the record, 3 stars is not bad. It's just fine. It didn't like wow me by any means, but it was good. So anyway, yeah. That's all I got. If you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. If you like me, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified of my uploads, hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye!